Hello. My name doesn't matter much. What matters is my heart. A heart that once believed in love, trusted love, and lived for love, only to be broken into pieces that can never be put back together. I never thought I would one day sit down and tell this story. But maybe, if I tell it, someone out there will learn from my pain, from my mistakes, from my shattered dreams. Maybe my voice will stop another heart from breaking the way mine did. I was just an ordinary girl. I didn't have much, but I had dreams. Dreams of a love that would complete me, a love that would protect me, a love that would be my forever. I believed in fairy tales. I believed in promises. I believed in the beauty of two souls becoming one. And then, he came into my life. He was not just a boy to me, he was everything. His smile felt like sunrise after a long night. His voice felt like music that only my heart could hear. His presence made the world softer, brighter, more beautiful. I still remember the first time he spoke to me. My hands shook, my heartbeat raced, and I thought, this is it. This is the beginning of my forever. He wasn't perfect, but in my eyes, he was more than perfect. He wasn't rich, but his words made me feel richer than anyone in the world. He wasn't a hero, but he made me feel safe, like nothing could hurt me as long as he was near. Every little thing he did became a memory I carried close to my heart. The way he looked at me, as if I was the only girl in the universe. The way he held my hand, as if he would never let go. The way he promised me, with his soft whisper, I will never hurt you. I will never leave you. And I believed him. I believed every single word. Because when you are in love, your heart doesn't ask for proof. It just trusts. It just surrenders. It just hopes. Day by day, my life started to revolve around him. His texts, his calls, his laughter, they became my oxygen. I woke up thinking of him, and I went to bed dreaming of him. My world was no longer mine, it was his. For the first time in my life, I felt complete. I thought, this is love. This is what people talk about. This is what I was born for. But what I didn't know was that sometimes the things that shine the brightest are the ones that burn us the most. If I close my eyes today, even after everything, I can still see those days when love felt like magic, when every morning felt like a new song, when every night felt like a dream I never wanted to wake up from. He was not just a person in my life, he was my reason to smile. Every message he sent made my heart dance. Every call from him made me feel alive. Even the simplest words from him felt like poetry written only for me. I remember the way he used to say my name. It wasn't just a name anymore, it was love itself, wrapped in his voice. When he laughed, I laughed too. When he was sad, my heart cried with him. It was as if our souls had become one, breathing the same emotions, sharing the same heartbeat. We had our little rituals, our little world. He would call me every night before I went to sleep, whispering, "Good night, my love. Sweet dreams." And I would smile into my pillow, feeling like the happiest girl alive. Every morning, his first message would be waiting for me. "Good morning, beautiful." Those words were enough to make my entire day glow. We made promises, promises of forever. He would look into my eyes and say, "No matter what happens, I will never leave you. You are my everything." And I believed him because in his eyes I saw sincerity, in his touch I felt security, and in his words I found my home. We planned a future together. We dreamed of a little house, filled not with riches, but with love. We talked about traveling the world, about holding hands even when our hair turned gray. We dreamed like children, but loved like souls who thought they were eternal. Those days, they were the most beautiful days of my life. Days when I didn't care about the world, because my world was him. I didn't need expensive things, I didn't need fame or glory. His presence was enough. His love was enough. Sometimes, we would just sit together in silence, no words, no explanations, just being with each other. And in that silence, I felt everything. I felt peace, I felt joy, I felt that I was finally where I belonged. I can still remember the way he looked at me when I laughed too hard, or when I talked about my silly dreams. He used to say, "You make even the smallest things beautiful. You don't know how much you mean to me." And maybe that was my mistake. I believed I truly meant everything to him. But back then, in those days, nothing could convince me otherwise. I was blind in love, but it was the sweetest blindness I had ever known. Those were the days when I thought forever was real. Those were the days when my heart was whole. Those were the days when love was my only truth. And if only I had known how quickly those days can turn into nights of pain. I never thought love could hurt. I never thought the same hands that held me so gently could be the ones to push me into darkness. But life has a cruel way of teaching lessons. It started slowly. At first, I thought it was just my imagination. The late replies, the excuses, the sudden silences. He used to call me first thing in the morning. Now, sometimes, I had to wait hours. He used to say, "I miss you 100 times a day." Now, even when we were apart for days, those words rarely came. I told myself he must be busy. Maybe he's tired. Maybe I'm overthinking. Because when you are in love, you don't want to see the cracks. You paint over them, you hide them, you convince yourself that everything is fine. But deep inside, I felt it. Something was changing. Something was slipping away. One evening, I saw him online, but he didn't reply to my message. My heart sank, but I stayed quiet. Another night, he ended our call quickly, saying he was tired. But I knew his voice, I knew he wasn't tired. He was distracted. His laughter wasn't the same anymore. His words didn't carry the warmth they used to. And then, the truth came crashing down. I still remember that night. I had gone to surprise him. I thought he would be happy to see me, the way he always used to be. I wanted to remind him of us, of our love, of the bond we once had. But what I saw, it broke me into 1,000 pieces. There she was, another girl, sitting with him, laughing with him, looking at him the way I once did, the way he once looked at me. His eyes, those same eyes that promised me forever, were now filled with someone else. I froze. My heart stopped. My world collapsed. He saw me standing there, and for a moment, guilt flashed across his face. But it was too late. That 1 second was enough to tell me everything. All the lies, all the excuses, all the fading love, it all made sense now. I walked away. I didn't scream, I didn't fight, I didn't beg. Because when the heart shatters, silence is louder than any words. That night, I cried until my soul ached. I kept asking myself, was I not enough? Did I love too much? Did I give him everything only to end up with nothing? The girl who once believed in forever now couldn't even believe in tomorrow. His promises echoed in my head. I will never hurt you. I will never leave you. You are my everything. But promises are just words. And words mean nothing when actions betray them. That night, I realized sometimes the people we trust the most are the ones who break us the worst. After that night, my life was never the same again. It felt like someone had ripped my heart out of my chest and left me empty, bleeding, broken. Days turned into nights, nights turned into endless tears. My pillow became my only witness, soaking every drop of my pain. I smiled in front of the world, but inside, I was collapsing. No one could see the storm I carried within me. I stopped recognizing myself. The girl who once laughed at silly jokes, who once believed in love, who once felt like the happiest soul alive, she was gone. All that was left was a hollow body, breathing but not alive. The nights were the worst. I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment with him in my head. His smile, his voice, his promises, they haunted me like ghosts I couldn't escape. I asked myself 1,000 times, why? Why did he do this to me? What was my mistake? Was I not enough? The pain was so heavy that sometimes I wished I could just sleep forever and never wake up again. Because waking up meant remembering, and remembering meant hurting. Everywhere I went, I saw him. In the streets, in the songs, in the quiet corners of my room. Everything reminded me of him. The coffee shop where we once sat, the park where we once laughed, even the raindrops on my window whispered his name. There was no escape. People told me, move on. Forget him. Time heals everything. But they didn't understand. Time didn't heal me, it only stretched my pain. Every second felt heavier, every minute felt longer, every hour felt unbearable. I tried to distract myself. I tried to listen to music, to read, to meet people. But nothing worked. The emptiness inside me swallowed every attempt. My heart was a battlefield, and I was losing. I became quiet. Too quiet. I avoided people. I avoided conversations. Because how could I explain to anyone what it feels like to be broken by the one you trusted the most? How could I make them understand the way my chest burned with unspoken tears? Sometimes I stood in front of the mirror, looking at myself, and I didn't recognize the girl staring back. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her smile was fake, her spirit was shattered. She was me, but not the me I used to know. And the cruelest part? Even after everything, even after the betrayal, even after the lies, my heart still longed for him. I hated myself for it, but it was true. Love doesn't disappear overnight. Love lingers, even when it's poisoned. I wished he would call. I wished he would come back. I wished he would say, I'm sorry. It was a mistake. I can't live without you. But those wishes never came true. Instead, silence became my only companion. Silence and pain. And slowly, I started to realize that maybe this pain would never leave me. Maybe I would carry it forever. They say the darkest nights bring the brightest dawns. For a long time, I didn't believe that. For a long time, all I saw was darkness. But slowly, so slowly, I began to realize that maybe my story wasn't ending. Maybe it was just beginning again. Healing didn't happen in one day. It didn't happen in 1 week. It was a long, painful process. Some days I still cried. Some nights I still missed him. But little by little, I started to choose myself again. The first step was the hardest, accepting that he was gone, and he wasn't coming back. I stopped waiting for his messages. I stopped hoping for his calls. I stopped rereading his old promises. Instead, I started writing new ones, promises to myself. I promised to be kinder to my heart. I promised to never beg for love again. I promised to learn how to stand on my own 2 feet, even if they were trembling. I began to do small things for myself. I picked up the hobbies I once abandoned. I started painting again, letting my emotions spill onto the canvas instead of my tears spilling on my pillow. I began to go on long walks, feeling the wind against my skin, reminding myself that I was still alive. And for the first time in a long time, I looked in the mirror and didn't see a broken girl, I saw a fighter. A survivor. Yes, I was hurt. Yes, I was betrayed. But I was still here. Breathing. Living. Fighting. Slowly, I began to surround myself with people who truly cared for me, friends who lifted me up instead of tearing me down. I realized that love doesn't always have to come from one person. Sometimes, love comes from the little moments, the laughter of a friend, the hug of a sibling, the smile of a stranger. And most importantly, I found love within myself. For so long, I thought I needed him to feel complete. But the truth is, I was complete long before he came, and I am complete even after he left. The pain didn't disappear overnight, but I started to carry it differently. Instead of letting it break me, I let it shape me. Instead of being a victim, I became stronger. My scars turned into reminders not of weakness, but of survival. I started to dream again. I started to believe again. Not in him, not in promises, but in myself. And one day, I woke up and realized I didn't think about him first thing in the morning. That day, I smiled. Because that was the day I truly began to heal. They say forgiveness is not about the other person. It's about yourself. For the longest time, I couldn't understand that. I thought, how can I forgive someone who destroyed me? But slowly, life taught me, holding on to anger was like holding on to fire. It only kept burning me, not him. Every night, I used to replay our memories in my head. The fights, the betrayal, the tears. I wanted answers, but none ever came. And then, one night, I asked myself, what if the answers don't matter anymore? What if what matters is my peace? That night, I cried harder than ever. But after the tears, something inside me shifted. I realized that forgiveness wasn't about saying, it's okay. Because it wasn't okay. It would never be okay. Forgiveness was about saying, I won't let this pain control me anymore. So, I began to let go. At first, it was just words. I whispered to myself, I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because I deserve to breathe again. I repeated it every day, even when I didn't believe it. Slowly, those words began to feel lighter. I wrote a letter once. A letter to him. I poured out everything, my anger, my sadness, my broken dreams. I wrote about the nights I couldn't sleep, the mornings I couldn't smile, the days I felt worthless. And at the end of the letter, I wrote just one line, I forgive you. Not for you, but for me. I never sent that letter. I burned it. As the paper turned to ashes, I felt like a part of the weight I had been carrying also burned away. Forgiving didn't mean forgetting. It didn't mean trusting him again. It didn't mean letting him back into my life. Forgiveness meant freedom. Freedom from the chains of my past. Freedom from the anger that poisoned my soul. Freedom from the constant replay of memories that kept me stuck. I began to smile a little more. I began to breathe a little easier. The nightmares slowly faded. And though the scars remained, they no longer hurt the same way. People asked me, how can you forgive someone who hurt you so deeply? And I said, because I don't want to hurt myself anymore. Forgiveness was the door I had to walk through if I wanted peace. And so, step by step, I walked through it. After forgiveness came silence. And in that silence, I finally heard the sound of my own heart again. For so long, I had been drowning in his voice, his lies, his betrayal. I had forgotten the sound of me. But now, it was my turn. I started small, waking up early, making my own breakfast, looking in the mirror and saying, "You're enough." At first, it felt fake, like I was lying to myself. But with every day that passed, the lies started to feel like truth. I began chasing the dreams I had once abandoned. I remembered how much I loved writing, so I wrote again. I remembered how much I loved painting, so I picked up my brushes again. I remembered how much I loved laughing, so I allowed myself to laugh again, even if sometimes it was through tears. I started learning new things, skills I never thought I could master. Cooking, driving, even standing up in front of people and speaking. Every time I did something new, every time I pushed past the fear, I felt a piece of myself coming back to life. You see, when your heart breaks, you think you're finished. But in truth, heartbreak is just the fire that burns away your weakness and leaves behind your strength. I became stronger, not because I wanted to prove him wrong, not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted to prove myself right. I wanted to prove that I could rise, no matter how hard I fell. I looked around at the people who loved me, my family, my true friends, the ones who stayed when everything fell apart. I realized I wasn't as alone as I thought. Sometimes we are so focused on who left us that we forget who stayed. And slowly, my world started to look different, brighter. Not because life became easier, but because I became tougher. I learned to say no. I learned to protect my heart. I learned that my worth does not depend on someone's attention or affection. My worth is mine. It always has been. One day, I stood in front of the mirror, looked at myself, and for the first time in years, I didn't see a broken girl. I saw a woman who had survived the storm. A woman who had scars, but also a smile. A woman who was no longer defined by her pain, but by her strength. And in that moment, I whispered to myself, "You're stronger than you ever thought. You are not just a survivor. You are a warrior." When I look back now, it feels like I've lived two different lives. The life before heartbreak and the life after. And honestly, I wouldn't change a thing. Because that broken version of me, she taught me how strong I could be. She taught me the meaning of patience, the value of self-respect, and the beauty of standing alone. But life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. For the longest time, I promised myself I would never open my heart again. I thought love was just a trap, a cruel game, something that only led to tears. But then, love came back into my life. Not in the same way, not with the same face, but in a form that felt safe, real, and pure. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't fireworks. It was gentle. It was someone who listened. Someone who cared without asking for anything in return. Someone who saw me, not my scars, not my past, not my pain, but me. At first, I resisted. I pushed them away. I built walls around myself so high that even I thought no one could climb them. But love, real love, doesn't force its way in. It just waits. Patiently. Kindly. And slowly, brick by brick, my walls began to fall. One day, I realized I was smiling without forcing it. I was laughing without pretending. I was living without carrying the weight of yesterday. That's when I knew love had found me again. But this time, it wasn't the kind of love that broke me. It was the kind of love that healed me. And maybe that's the lesson life wanted me to learn. That love isn't about losing yourself in someone else. It's about finding someone who reminds you of the strength you already have. It's about walking side by side, not one behind the other. It's about growing together, not shrinking to fit someone's world. Now, when I wake up in the morning, I don't feel the emptiness I once did. I feel hope. I feel gratitude. I feel alive. I don't know what the future holds. None of us do. But I do know this. I am not afraid anymore. Not afraid of love. Not afraid of loss. Not afraid of living fully, even if it means getting hurt again. Because I know now, no matter what happens, I can survive. I can rise. I can heal. And I can love again. So here I am, starting a new chapter. A chapter filled with love, with hope, with dreams I once thought were impossible. And if there's one thing I want you to take from my story, it's this. No matter how broken you feel today, there will come a day when you'll smile again. There will come a day when your heart feels light again. There will come a day when love, in its purest form, finds you again. And when that day comes, you'll realize your story was never about being broken. It was always about becoming whole.